Hi, my name is Bradley Petrondo, and I will be discussing how Native American popular music has misappropriated American Indian culture in a lecture setting. So kind of bear with me as I go through my paper and present this. There were a couple terms that you need to take into mind when speaking on how American popular music has misappropriated American Indian culture. These terms are singing red face, racial antipathy, idealized sympathy, cultural misappropriation, cultural confusion, blackface minstrelsy, and playing Indian. First, I want to talk about, or start off by saying, over the span of United States history, there clearly has been a misappropriation of American Indian culture through popular music. You can see this everywhere today if you just kind of pay attention to it. Our society does a good job, sadly, at normalizing a lot of the things that they do when they're misappropriating American Indian culture. So they do that. And okay, so the first term that you need to go over and understand is singing red face. And singing red face is a term which directly offends and degrades the Native American culture, and it's used when depicting natives in plays or music to be wearing their tribal or ceremonial outfits or attire. And some of these things include anything from war paint, feathers, ceremonial garb, anything and all around tribal Native American culture, including anything that goes on at powwows as well. Just gonna try and give you an example of singing red face that I have in my paper. Sorry, I'm scrolling through my paper and going through this and checking them off as I go. Okay. So an example culturally in the music industry of singing red face would be the Village People, the people that sing YMCA, a very popular sports song. Everyone knows it today in America, in American culture, and they recognize the group the Village People. One member specifically of the group, the Village People, dresses up as a tribal war chief, and so this can be seen as singing red face, or exposing that Native American culture for their own musical benefit. The next term I want to take a look at is racial antipathy, and it basically is a term that means voluntarily or involuntarily disliking somebody or another culture, somebody or another culture. And this can be induced by not only experience with another culture, but it can also be without any rationale at all, just simply not liking another culture because it's another culture. And in an article I read, it stated that white Americans have the most rancorous antipathy to the whole race of Indians, Native Americans. And nothing is more common than to hear them talk of extirpating them and totally from the face of the earth, men, women, and children. And this was from a little bit ago during the colonization of the United States. So this is by no means something that's been said recently, thankfully. But it still has importance to the entire issue. I mean, the kind of rhetoric and racial antipathy that this country was founded on towards minority groups, specifically for this paper, Native Americans, is definitely something that you need to be aware of and stay away from. And thankfully, it's gotten better over time that I've learned throughout this course, but it's something that you definitely need to keep in mind. So the next term I want to look at is idealized sympathy or sympathy. And it's something that's also important to take into account when looking at misappropriation of American Indian culture. Over the course of American history, up until recently, there was a complete absence of any kind of sympathy towards the Native American culture. Americans in the beginning viewed them as bestial animals that deserved the treatment they were getting, and the wrong thing to say about another culture. But unfortunately, that's kind of what America was founded on when during and throughout the colonization and development. Thankfully, it's better today, as I've seen through this taking this course. But so the kind of lack of sympathy was what I pointed out in my paper, and should be taken note of, how there was a very, very little or lack of sympathy for other cultures, and specifically Native American culture. Cultural misappropriation is something that can happen through several different outlets. The main outlet that is important to look at is the cultural misappropriation of Native Americans throughout the music industry, and that's what the paper was about. And this can be seen through the music industry by recklessly borrowing important Native American garb and other important tribal or cultural gear that the music industry uses for its own benefit in production. So, for example, I pointed out in my paper that there is an artist named Kesha who can be seen throwing around and rolling in and not having great respect for what is an important Native American blanket used in her video. It had tribal markings on it, and may have, I'm not an expert, but may have even had some kind of bigger meaning than just a blanket. And she was seen kind of disrespecting it in her video, and I don't think intentionally disrespecting, but she definitely was using it as a prop just to kind of make herself look better in the video, and not pointing out any of the values or anything that comes along with that type of thing, which isn't good. And the song was Last Goodbye by Kesha. Forgot to mention that. And so, this disrespectful behavior towards a certain Native American cultural object is sadly commonplace in today's popular music videos, although it's better than what it used to be in the past and how it was intentionally degrading in the past. And I think today, at times, I just think it's used for a different reason. I don't think the majority of people are intentionally using these items to offend Native Americans and doing some of these things. But I do believe that they're not giving it the proper reverence that they should when they are using this. Sorry, I'll try and speed it up. I'm already at the 8-minute mark. I'm getting carried away. So the next thing I want to talk about is cultural confusion. And, it kind of goes hand in hand with cultural misappropriation. So this cultural confusion comes about when our society as a whole, through music videos and the entertainment industry, kind of devalues or degrades or normalizes traditional and ceremonial Native American items for their own benefit. And that's not good. And so that, the broad American view of these items is that, some people believe that it's okay then to dress up or do these kind of things or flaunt these kind of items or decorate their houses with these kind of items, when really there's more cultural and significant value to them than people are giving it through this cultural confusion that kind of happened. The next thing I want to talk about is the blackface minstrelsy. And originally I didn't know that there was a blackface for Native Americans as well, because I've heard of the blackface for African Americans, and where it was kind of a comedic act, and they would make fun of the slave trade, which was horrible, and it'd be white people putting on these shows, making fun of the slave trade or anything black cultural, African American cultural ideals, and to entertain white audiences. White performers would make fun of other cultures to entertain white audiences. And I didn't know that it went as far as Native Americans as well. but it makes sense. I mean, it's just another outlier culture, a minority in the American culture that wasn't generally accepted, and so they kind of got the same treatment as far as in the blackface performances. African Americans and Native Americans and other minorities were treated horribly and unfairly, where they would expose different stereotypes and be just distasteful, really, and in trying to entertain people. And it's sad that people actually found entertainment out of it, and it was a thing for such a long time, because today something like that would never fly, which is good. That those things are not commonplace. I'm not saying that they don't happen at all. I'm sure there's people out there that still do those kind of performances, but it used to be mainstream, and today it's moved towards, less mainstream and not good to do, and that's a good thing. There's been some kind of progress there. And the next thing I want to talk about is playing Indian. So this is another form. It kind of goes hand in hand again with playing blackface, or not playing blackface minstrelsy. Due to the fact that people who are playing Indian are dressing up as Native Americans, while at the same time acting out non-Indian assumptions, stereotypes, fantasies of the Indian culture. However, playing Indian differs from blackface minstrelsy because it can still be seen today, publicly, very readily available anywhere you look. There's still examples of playing Indian going on today in many different cultural outlets in American culture. Playing Indian not only happens throughout different popular music videos, which I've pointed out, but it happens in the use of mascots for sports teams, the Cleveland Indians, the Washington Redskins. I mean, they're using their culture, the Native American culture, for their own, not advantage, but own business model. They're putting a culture as their business model, and misappropriating it in that way. Another and final example would be holidays such as Halloween, which I think is moving more out of the realm of dressing up as other cultures. But I know definitely growing up that people would come dressed as, Pocahontas or famous Native Americans. And this was something that wasn't seen as a big deal back then, but today, being my age now, is seeing more and more repercussions with it, which I think is a good thing. Because it is kind of insensitive and generalizing an entire culture to one or two people, when it's much more than that, to them, and should be to everyone. And so, overall, I feel as people in general don't really understand how drastically Native American culture has been misappropriated throughout American history. I mean, like I said, I didn't really realize how bad it was in our daily culture. I mean, I always knew the things growing up, as far as the Trail of Tears and some of the more famous atrocious acts that Americans did to the Native American population throughout the colonization of America. But I didn't look as far as even the surface level of our culture in the music industry and the entertainment industry, and I think that's something that the general public doesn't see or look into either. So I think it's important to realize and look at those kind of things, and I definitely have gained a better appreciation and understanding of the misappropriation that happened and things other than the popular hot school taught items. And I also think that American culture has covered up a lot of the insensitive undertones by labeling it as entertainment, or entertainment and not education. In the schoolroom setting, you're going to learn about the specific acts that were done, whether it be the assimilation or the attempt to assimilate the Native Americans still living on reservations with American culture, the Trail of Tears, just colonization of America in general. The American culture has done a good job kind of sweeping a bunch of stuff under the rug, but after actually looking into the other areas where you can misappropriate culture, it's apparent that it's really happening a lot more than you would think. The fact of the matter is that when you are misappropriating another culture for your entertainment, you're indirectly educating the American public in a negative way. And so I think I'm kind of part of that brainwashed crowd where I didn't really notice these things until I took this course and was writing a paper on it. And I am appreciative of having this new knowledge, and it kind of gives you a different outlook on everything, and gives you a greater appreciation for other cultures, and specifically the Native American culture. I hope I did this presentation correctly. Let me know, I guess, if it was done incorrectly. But I just want to let you know that I have enjoyed taking this course. I learned a lot more than I thought I would, and have gained a new appreciation for a lot of the things in Native American culture that Native American culture has to offer. So I want to say thank you, and have a good rest of your summer.